So I love to start these episodes by doing some social media digging and seeing what the receipts show for you. Barry, here's what I have. You wrote this. This is on Instagram, friends. It says, "Stop auditioning for the role God created you for." What did you mean by that? I love that statement.
Thank you so much. That means stop trying to be like her. God has created you to do you. You know, that whole be you thing, it's, you do you, sis. That's absolute truth. Be who God created you to be. Stop auditioning to be her. She's doing a great job of her. Do a great job of being you. God created you. You are the only one. We individually, there's not another Heather. There's not another Mary. There's not another you. Stop auditioning for someone else's life.
I wonder if you see this even more maybe than most, considering the coaching you do with speaking, because I feel like speaking is one of those things where you see how someone else does it, and it can be really easy subconsciously, right, to start picking up the speaking mannerisms or the way somebody talks, just because you respect them so much. So is that something you see a lot in your line of work with people?
Absolutely. That is such a just a commonality across so many communicators. You even can see it in writing sometimes. And and it's not intentional and it's not plagiarism. That's a whole other story for another day. But it is respect and wanting to be like that great communicator, and here's what I say is there's nothing wrong with looking at her and finding the parts that you love. You love the way she leans into the audience. Do it the way is comfortable for you. Heather, when I first started speaking, I wanted to be Beth Moore, so I just did everything. I would act like I knew what the Greek was, and I didn't. I'd look up one word in Greek and then and you have to know this is pre how do you pronounce it? And you can tell with this accent, it was always wrong. And I was such a poor Beth Moore, but I'm a great Mary R. Snyder. And when I learned that, because we don't need another Beth Moore, we don't need another Heather Thompson Day, but we need another you.
It's so Beth Moore actually said the exact same thing that you're saying when she was on the show, and somebody just commented on a post that she did, and it said, "Man, this writing style reminds me so much of Heather Thompson Day. I can tell that you guys have spent time together." And I just thought it was funny, and I, like, commented back, I was embarrassed, I was like, "Oh, I probably have read too many Beth Moore books and it's showing, right? In the way that I communicate." Yeah. But what's fascinating about this, Mary, so I teach communication, and a theory in communication is communication accommodation theory, which says actually, so when we mimic other people's communication dialects and the way that they talk, it is actually us showing our respect. Where sometimes I think people, especially interculturally, people can think, oh, they're trying to appropriate you, or they're um trying to be something they're not. But it's actually like one of the human being's like greatest signs of respect is unintentionally mirroring what I hear or what I see. Just this week, you're the person I want to ask this to, because somebody asked me this week, how do I know what I'm supposed to write about? Or how do I know the type of talks I'm supposed to put together? How would you answer that question? Because I know one of our listeners right now is saying, I want to do this. I want to speak. I feel like I know who I am, but how do I know how I'm supposed to communicate or what I'm supposed to say?
Such a great question, you're exactly right. I get this question a lot. Here are a few answers. One is, what is the one thing that people come to you for? Maybe they come to you for marital advice. Maybe they're like, "How do you do this thing? How do you continue to be so joyful when you have such a hard story?" What is the thing? Now, secondary, because maybe it's something that a lot of people don't know about. What literally keeps you up at night? What is that churning in your spirit? That's the Holy Spirit, by the way, that gut thing. What is the Holy Spirit continually bringing up in your life? Continually bubbling up to the surface that is, this is for you. You see something and you know you have a message for her. You see a woman going through something, you're, "Oh, if I could just talk to her." That's your story. That's your message. When it is something that you need to share, not want, you need to share it, then you have to share it because God has given you that. He's entrusted that. We forget, Heather, that God gives us these messages, not for us, not for the big glory of being on the big stage. That's not what it's about. It's for one woman who's going through something, and she needs to know that she's not alone. That is why you have to share that bubbling up message that you just can't get rid of. And a lot of people don't. I didn't know what I was called to speak. I just knew I was called to speak. So I just, until the Lord drilled it into me and I was able to say, "Oh, I'm supposed to talk about hard relationships." Heather, I would have not gotten up one morning and go, "Lord, let me have a really bad friendship so I can go and tell other people about bad friendships." That was not my story. It's not the one I wanted. But boy, it was the one he gave me, and it's the one that so many women have said, "Wow, I walked that road. Thank you for sharing."
Can you tell us about that a little bit? What was that process like for you?
It was, it without, and I'm always honoring, the other side of this story. It was a group of friends, and one of them came in, and within this body of friends, one of the girls came to me and said, "This is not right. A lot of the things she's saying does not add up." And she was right, but I refused to see that. There was a lot of, half truths, which y'all just by the way, y'all, a half truth is a whole lie. But a lot of manipulation that I refuse to see. Hear me, refuse to see. In retrospect, I can tell you everything. And this friend that came to me literally walked away from this group of girlfriends who had been together. We'd been together for years. Now, when I'll call her the outlier, came in, we welcomed her with open arms, but quickly a couple of people saw the damage and the danger. And within a year, she had destroyed relationships. And I know now as a mature woman, I was much younger then, she was hurting. She was a hurt person that did not know how to have relationships. She just knew how to pit women against each other, and that was her method of being your friend. And it took about 2 years for me to get out of that, but oh, what I learned. And that original friend, Heather, when I picked up the phone to call her and talk to her in almost a year, and I just told her the very first words out of my mouth, and y'all, this was pre-caller ID, she didn't even know it was me. So, I picked up so she just answered willy-nilly. It was crazy times back then, y'all. Crazy, it was madness. So she answered the phone, and I said, "Girl, the first thing I wanna say is, I am so sorry. Please forgive me." And she said, "I forgave you a long time ago. I saw what was happening." It was the kindest thing, and to be able to walk on the other side of that. Number 1, to help women, now I don't do this anymore, but back then, I talked about the signs to watch for in a dangerous relationship and the signs to watch for in a healthy relationship. Like a friend who comes to you and says, "Just watch for this. Just pay attention to this." And I just closed my ears. So, yeah, that was a hard lesson, not one that I wanted, but oh, wow, what the Lord did with that.
I can already tell by hearing you share it. It is absolutely something I'm sure so many people relate to. And it's wild how young sometimes I can even think of my daughter and she's only 11. And I've seen that exact dynamic play out with her as well. So yeah, I just want to affirm you that I know that that's something people would really relate to.